All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. Hope everybody is doing well tonight. Potham, it's good to see you. You are indeed first tonight. Hope you're doing all right. Singy over on the YouTube side, good to see you. And Saeed as well, good to see you. Welcome. RCW, good to see you. I feel like it's been a bit since I've seen you. Hope you're doing well. Maybe I'm misremembering that, but I feel like it's been a minute. Anyway, so tonight we're actually going to look at importing via Assimp. So we're going to look at importing our animations, rather, or our animated / skin meshes and materials through Assimp. And we may actually convert sort of everything to use that going forward. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But before we do jump into that, I do just want to take a quick second to thank the supporters of the channel, beginning with our elite partner, Javier Alazaran, followed by our partners, Gabolis Inc., Magatsub, and Matt Ostgard. They are the highest tiers of subscription over on YouTube memberships and Patreon, as well as Twitch subscriptions. The other list of supporters here are a combination of the other tiers of support over on YouTube memberships, Twitch subscriptions, and Patreon, of course. So thank you all very much for your support. It is greatly appreciated. Your support goes a long way into helping me cover the costs of running the channel, things like software licenses, hosting fees, things of that nature. So thank you all very much for your support. It means a great deal to me and helps me out a lot. Of course, I would be in error to not thank all of you guys who are joining me here live, either on the Twitch side or the YouTube side, or if you're just catching the VOD after the fact. Thank you guys very much, all of you, the viewers. Without you guys, this channel and this project would not exist, so I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you for being here. Okay. Took some time off to get some life stuff done. Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I understand that completely. Good to see you again, though. Welcome. Back to the engine dev work. Glad to be back. Nice. Awesome. Well, welcome back. All right. So, I have done a little bit off camera, just because I kind of wanted to figure out the direction I wanted to take this. And so we'll kind of go over the way that that's going to work. And so the idea here is that we are going to use Assimp to import all of our animated meshes, and we're actually going to use that to import a lot of our maybe other model formats to go with it, right? So if you're not familiar with that, let me just actually pull that up. So this is one of the examples of I think it makes sense to use an external library with an asterisk, right? So we don't do that a lot here, but this is one place where I think it makes sense, right? So this is the Open Asset Import Library, and it supports 40 different file formats, right? So much like we use STB-image to import textures, we are going to be using this to import meshes and animated meshes going forward. However, this will only be used in our asset import pipeline. It will not be part of the core game and engine code, right? So we won't be shipping this with a game or anything like that. We are still going to use our proprietary formats and to actually load these assets into the engine. We're still going to be using our own methods of doing that we've written from scratch, right? So this is going to sort of open the door for us to be able to import more different types of formats and not necessarily have to rewrite all of those from scratch, right? So we did write a OBJ parser from scratch, and that was, sort of an exercise in how you might do that. But some of these other formats out there, it just doesn't make sense to sort of implement that fully from scratch at this point. So this is one of the exceptions where we're going to be using a library, but we're not going to be using it in the core code. We're only going to be using it to import things. As far as our main game engine is concerned, we are still going to be using all of our own stuff that we've written from scratch. Now, this is written in C and C++. There is a C binding for it, right? So most resources out there, specifically talk about the C++ version of this. But we're going to be using. Oh, thank you so much for the tier 1 subscription. I appreciate that. It is September, yes. And thank you very much for that support. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you. And so, in this case, we are going to be using, here we go. Here's what I was looking for. So APIs are provided for C and C++. So we're going to be using the C version of that. And that's one of the reasons that I chose to use this, right? There are other alternatives out there, but, this one is just the one that sort of makes the most sense to me. So with that said, I already have the project configured to use it. So the way that I've done that, and I'm just going to expand the file explorer here for a second just to kind of show you the hierarchy of things. So our importer lives here, right? Or at least we haven't kind of written one yet. We're going to be writing that tonight. So that lives under Kohi.tools, right? And that's the place that makes the most sense for it. However, all of the Assimp library is now going to live in as a submodule of Kohi, right? So we have submodules. Assimp is where this lives, right? And so if we look into that, that's where you find all of the, the standard includes, the lib if you needed that, and so forth, right? And so we set this up as a submodule so that way whenever you clone it, you can just simply clone it recursively, and you already have the dependency that you need. And so that's the simplest way to set that up for now. And I say for now because eventually, once we get further down the road of development with this and we get a little bit closer to release, I am going to be splitting this Kohi tools off into sort of its own repository, right? So right now, the Kohi repository is going to have the Assimp sort of subdependency here, but the only thing really depending on that is the Kohi.tools, right? I suppose I could move this under here, and maybe I'll do that at some point, but eventually Kohi tools will be a separate library, so that way a separate repository rather, so that the core sort of Kohi library doesn't actually rely on that, right? So this is a temporary thing just to kind of speed development along, but that's kind of what we're doing for now. Let's see. Most resources talk about only the C++ version. Learned that very well since switching back to C 3 weeks ago. Yeah. So that's going to be the thing. And I've used Assimp before, but I've used the C++ version of it. So there's a little bit of a learning curve here for me as well in using this API when it comes to using the C API as opposed to C++, right? Because it's been a while since I've actually used this. But yeah. Okay, so that is the game plan. So we've got that. And I just have this open here just so in case I need to, kind of reference any of the header files, which I am going to need to do probably repeatedly. The other thing is we have the Kohi makefile. Oops, sorry, not the makefile. I don't want that. I want build all sh. So there's been a slight modification to this file. I believe it's only this line, actually. So when we build the Kohi.tools, we do have a, I can actually close the file explorer. We do have an include added here. And again, that's going to be temporary because eventually we're going to move this submodule. And I think that's actually, we just include the Assimp lib directory, although I don't think we're going to need that. And that's it, right? It's just really adding that. And then, of course, once we build that for the first time, then our compile flags will also include that here, so that our IntelliSense sort of works. So with all of that said, if we go here to this is our K asset importer. which is sort of the central part of our import toolchain that hooks to all of the various importers. So for example, up here we've got the audio import, the image import, the bitmap font import. And then for now, I've just been kind of writing this in this texture, or in this this C file. I think I'm going to wind up moving this to a separate importer, right? So at the top here, we just have a couple of things here. We've got a few different we've got a few different H files, header files rather, for Assimp up here. I just need to move these actually up here. Did I get them all? Okay. So these are all the ones that we require. So I'm just going to go here and just change these because I do plan on moving these eventually. All right. So that's all of those. And that'll allow me to sort of, pick this up and move it into a different file. So with that being said, let's take a look at. So we have a. Just bat this to the side for a second. So we have a load Assimp model function here. So this gives us the path to the source file, and then it also takes the package name. Now we don't actually have this hooked up yet. But this is the main entry point into loading that. So the way that this works is we basically call AI import file, and we're passing a few flags here. So we want to triangulate the mesh, we want to generate smooth normals, and we want to calculate tangent space based off of that, right? So when we do those imports, we have all of the data that we need. And then here we just do a quick check after the scene is loaded to make sure that it actually exists, and that if it does not exist or the flag of it being incomplete is set, or we don't have a root node, any of those things are basically error conditions, and we just throw an error and return false. Otherwise, we call process node, which is recursive, as you might have guessed. So we just pass the scene root node there, and then we come up to process node itself, and we loop through the meshes, loop through the children of each node, process them recursively, right? So we've got a process mesh here. We've got a to-do to push this to a mesh list that we don't have yet. And so, we'll just kind of be building this out as we go. Process mesh, so essentially just goes through each of the vertices, goes ahead and gets the position and the normal and the text coordinate. I do believe we actually do need to do, let's see, mesh. We're going to need tangents as well, and bitangents, which I think should have already been generated, I believe. So we'll need tangents as well. I forgot to get those. So we essentially grab all of that, all that stuff that the individual vertices need. So if we take a look at this, we have position, normal, texture coordinates. Color, we're probably just going to feed white into that. And then tangent, of course, is what we're going to need there. And then we'll have to figure out the bone IDs and weights from there. So let's see. So let's actually move this up here. And we'll do struct AI vector 3D. And we're going to call this T for tangents. And that's going to be tangents sub I, right? So we're just sort of looping through all of our, whoops, typed that wrong twice. Awesome. So we're going to be sort of looping through all of our vertices, normals, and tangents here. Let me see. Am I already using the term T anywhere? Why is this bleating? Or is it just saying that's not used? Oh, I need to take the address of this. There we go. Okay, so this is basically going to be the same thing as this. So essentially all we're doing is converting their sort of vector 3D to our vector 3D, right? So this is going to be tangent, and then so we're going to do this one. We're just going to say t.x, t.y, t.z. And wait a minute, is tangent is a vect 4. What were we doing? I don't remember. Generate tangents. What were we plugging into? You're plugging in the handedness. I don't think we're going to have to worry about this. Let's see, tangent. I don't think we're going to have to worry about that. We are plugging that in either 0 or either -1 or 1, depending on whether it's left-handed or right-handed, depending on whether those normals need to be flipped. We are encoding it into W, though. And I don't know. Let's see, does this have any documentation on handedness? I didn't think about that. I don't know if... I feel like just plugging a value in there is not going to be the way to do it, but what I'm going to do for right now is I'm just going to say 1.0f with a fix me, calculate handedness. And actually, see, we're doing an edge calculation here to figure out whether or not the normals need to be actually flipped. I don't know if Assimp actually gives us that, come to think of it. Let me see. Gladiator Live X, how's it going? First time chatter, welcome. Want to ask you a question. Is developing your own game engine difficult? I personally am interested in learning how to develop game engines and video games. So I won't lie, yes it is, but it is not impossible. It does require that you have knowledge on several different disciplines, right? But you can acquire that knowledge. The cool thing about things nowadays is that it's easy to look up, right? But if you're interested in getting started, the book I always recommend to everyone is this Game Engine Architecture by Jason Gregory. He's a developer at Naughty Dog, and this is a fantastic book for an overview of game engine dev, right? So this is where I would start if I were you. It's a thick book, right? There's no getting around it, right? You just got to get through it, but it's got a plethora of knowledge in here. But it does dive into some detail, but it does, remain relatively high level as well at the same time, right? So it does talk about things like memory management and performance and stuff like that, but it also talks about all of the various systems that are involved in a game engine. So I would highly suggest you give that a read so that you have at least a basic idea of all the concepts you're going to need to understand. And then obviously you're going to need to have a decent command of C or C++. So yes, it's difficult, but no, it's not impossible. And for reference, nobody taught me how to do this stuff. I learned it on my own, just by looking up stuff and reading stuff, and doing it. So, yeah, there's that. Sikelos Music, good to see you. Welcome. Let's see. Have a question involving another first-time chatter. Welcome. Have a question involving rendering pipelines. I learned about shadow volumes used in Doom 3 and was wondering, are you familiar with it? If it requires custom GLSL pipeline to handle it with a reasonable performance hit. What do you mean by custom GLSL pipeline? I guess. What context are you talking in? Like, are you talking about... And like, are you talking about using it like a pre-existing engine, or are you talking about, rolling one in your own? That's kind of an open-ended thing. Yeah, I haven't done a real deep dive into the shadow volumes used in Doom 3, to be completely honest, but I mean, anything done in Doom 3 is going to be very performant nowadays because that was written a long time ago. So there's probably better ways to handle stuff these days, but it depends on what you're going for, right? Because of the way that Doom 3's render runs, or is the way that it composes lighting, it's very good for dark types, dark or creepy types of games. So there is let me see if I can find it real quick. If I can remember what the heck it was called. Here we go. So Fabian Sanglard did a fantastic write-up of the Doom 3 source code review and the renderer itself. And this goes over how they compose lighting and stuff in the Doom 3 renderer. I don't know if you've read this. If you haven't, it's a fantastic read. So I would highly recommend this one. This is actually like in the middle of the series. It's like part 3 of 6, but it's I'll link it here anyways. It's a really good write-up on that. Never written my own game engine, so I've been considering how I'd implement in something like Godot engine. Godot is very hands-off with its dynamic lighting, always choosing forward rendering and shadow maps. So if I were to implement shadow volumes in Godot, a naive approach would be to add it on top of its already shadow map pipeline by adding 3D shapes for the shadows generated by the CPU, which sounds awful. That does sound terrible, to be completely honest. Yeah. So the thing you have to remember is like Doom 3's engine was a bespoke engine written for the way that they wanted to do things in Doom 3. So trying to take a out-of-the-box game engine and trying to make it work the same way that Doom 3 is going to work is never going to be optimal, right? Frankly, if you want to work the way that Doom 3 does, you either need to write that yourself from the ground up, or find a way to, maybe use that engine. But trying to make another engine work that way is generally not the way that I would suggest going. It's going to be more cumbersome than it's worth, typically. Baguettes, good to see you as well. Doom 3's bloom effect is GOAT. Yeah, I would agree with that. Just tuned in and missed the name of the book you were talking about. Could you repeat the name? Oh, okay. Eyeless got it for you, yeah. I should probably put that in my FAQ, actually. Why the book? I've been following your live streams for a long time and have learned a lot. Are you afraid that people might look at your code and steal your work? Nope. In fact, in a way, I sort of hope that they do and make something awesome of it, right? So the whole reason that I'm making this game engine from scratch is to hopefully like make people want to do this, right? Motivate them to want to do it. Show them a way to do it. Literally from the ground up, right? So like, yeah, somebody might rip off my source code, right? But it's open source. So, this is meant to be an educational sort of exercise, right? And a way to build a game engine. So I'm not really too worried about that. Yeah, I could paywall it, right? I could lock it behind a paywall and say, hey, you have to sign up for whatever to get access to it. But I think that's kind of poopy. I don't like that. I think that's crap, right? I think this kind of stuff should be free to learn how to do, right? There are other resources like this book that I would say absolutely are worth the money. Buy it, right? But I don't believe in paywalling stuff like this, right? It doesn't sit right with me, and so I'm not gonna, right? I'm putting it out there. If you want to use it, cool. If you want to give me credit, if you use the code base directly, like if you go to the actual GitHub code base and you use it directly, yeah, I would ask that you give me credit on that, right? But like, I'm not really gonna like enforce it, right? That's not really the point of what I'm doing here. I'm not really doing this for the money, right? The supporters that I have, I really appreciate. But that's not the reason I'm doing this. I'm kind of trying to create the resource that I wish I had, or that I wish was available when I was learning how to do all this stuff. And so, yeah, I'm not really worried about that somebody's going to steal it. I hope that somebody can take at least some of the knowledge that I'm putting out there, or some of the code that I'm putting out there, make something kick-ass with it. Compete with the other big boys out there and make something really kick-ass with it. And to me, that's payment enough. So I hope that makes sense. Are you a senior software engineer at a game studio? No, not anymore. I was, but not anymore. I needed a work-life balance, so I got away from it, doing it as my day job. All right. Luckily, Godot is open source, so just rewrite the render. Yeah, you could do that too. How's it going, by the way, Orshi? Good to see you. Little tip, make tangent a vec4, store the sign of the cross between the normal tangent and bitangent is less than 0. Let's see. Cheaper to compute the bitangent on the GPU by taking... Okay, so I am actually doing that, Graphite Master. So this right here is what I'm encoding into the tangent, right? So like when I was saying this, I'm like, I just don't have that, right? So like literally, I'm probably just going to have to... I hate to do that much calculation at this level. I was kind of hoping that like the API would give that to me somewhere. Maybe I just haven't found it yet, but yeah, I hope that makes sense. I like the effect because it's a cool hack. Yeah, fair enough. Might be less work than starting over in Bevy. Yeah, true that. Have you chosen a name for the game engine? Yes. It is called Kohi. So actually, what I'll do... So I've actually got a website behind it and everything, and I'll drop a link here in chat. So this is sort of the central hub for it. It's called the Kohi game engine, and it is available on GitHub. So it is here. It's Apache 2.0 license, which means if you want to use it as is, which... Asterisk, I'll come back to this. I don't recommend it yet. But if you wanted to use it as is, all that I ask is that you say you used it. Whether it's commercial, personal, does not matter. It won't ever be, it won't ever have any sort of licensing fees or royalties or any of that crap. It'll always be open source and free. So the reason I say I don't recommend using it as is yet is because it's still very much under construction. As you can see, we're implementing an animation system, for example. So the test for this is going to be I'm going to write and release a game on this game engine, and that's going to help me work all the kinks out of it, and then at that point, once I've actually released a game on it, then I'll be able to say, yeah, I'm confident this is ready to actually be used in production. Let's see, dot cross tangent normal bitangent less than 0 can be It scrolled. Where did it go? Can be done here on the Assimp import side to get W. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about doing. I was just like hoping to not have to do that, right? I was hoping that would just give it to me, but yeah, apparently not. Let's see. Kohi is probably the final name. Yeah. So yeah, Kohi. I chose Kohi because that's like the Japanese way of saying coffee, and I love coffee. And I love many things Japanese, so it just kind of made sense. You're a great, serious person. I wish you success. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, my whole thing with this, if it even helps a single person, you know, do cool stuff, then mission accomplished as far as I'm concerned. Weeb detected. I mean, I wouldn't take it that far, Orshi, because the difference is I also see the negatives of it. I don't necessarily want to go into all that on stream, but yeah, I'm not one of those that looks at the whole thing through rose-tinted glasses or you know, says it's the perfect civilization, right? It's not. It's got its problems just like anywhere else. Let me see. Let me catch up on the YouTube side. Roman General, good to see you. Keep me inspired on some line 10,000 of my own engine in C++. That's awesome. That book you have in your hand is one of the best. Yes, it absolutely is. Hey there, is that Vim? Yes, it is. Well, it's NeoVim, technically, but yes.
You dingus.
What's the book's title? Game Engine Architecture, 3rd edition by Jason Gregory. Yeah, and I'll just show it up I'll hold it up to the screen again. So it looks like that. It's got like a jet engine on it, and you know, it's by Jason Gregory. There's the side of the book. Right. It's a thick book. It's at least 2 C's thick, right? But yeah, it's a great book. Fantastic resource. I'm actually due to read through it again sometime soon. All right. Thank you for the follows, by the way. Appreciate that. Not good without the bad, a shocker. Yeah, exactly, right? Based in real. Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know anything that has... The way I look at things is you can't have good without bad. You can't have bad without good, right? There is a balance there. It's all relative, right? Because what is good if you don't have bad? It's neutral. Anyway, I don't want to go too philosophical here, I guess, but all right. So I guess what we'll have to do is we'll have to do vec3 cross, and we'll do vert. Oh, wait a minute. I need to take this. Needs to be down here because I need tangent first. Vert.tangent. And then I'll need vert normal. Is it vert normal? I think it's the cross product of vert, tangent, and normal, and then vec3 dot of the cross and... Oh, you know what? I'm going to have to convert that to a vector 3 before I can actually do that. All right, I'll come back to that. What was it again? It was... I don't have the bitangent yet, though. Do they actually give me that, though? They do. Okay, so let's do... Let me actually move this up here. Struct AI vector 3D, and we'll do B here. Well, I'll type BT, right? And then we'll take the address of this guy. And then we'll do, here we'll do vec3b equals. And then we'll do BT X, BT Y, BT Z, right? And then we can do B here, and then less than 0.0f, right? And that will wind up being our W. Oops. Right, so that is what we then plug into here. Now, obviously, we can't use tangent here directly, right? Because I guess let's actually do that. Let's actually take this, put it here, and we'll say vec3. I don't want to say T again. Okay, let's do source vector, source normal, source tangent, source bitangent, right? Just to be a little bit more explicit about this, right? So we'll just do this. We don't need the W here. We don't need that. And this needs to be a vec3. And then just needs to be T. And then the bitangent is going to be, we'll just say SB instead. Oops. Right? And then we'll just do T. And then here we can use, we can say source tangent, or I guess we could just say T. Yeah, source, actually, we can actually just do vec4 from vec3, pass in tangent there, and then W for the W. I think I've got that right. There's no flow if there's no potential differential. Yes, Magets. Weird Trash Can, how's it going? Good to see you. How have you been? I was just thinking about you the other day. How have you been? Hope you're doing okay. Do you think vibe coding with ChatGPT plus learning through is a good method? That's what I'm doing. Going pretty well. Got my linear algebra knowledge and CPP. So I have very strong feelings on vibe coding and using ChatGPT. ChatGPT gets things wrong all the time. I would never use it to generate any sort of code that I would consider production ready. But the biggest issue that I have with it is you never want to export your thinking or your problem solving, your critical thinking or problem solving to one of these LLMs, right? Because just like not using a physical muscle can cause atrophy, not using your critical thinking and problem solving skills can atrophy those skills. So I always caution against that. It's if you know what you're doing, it's okay. But if you're learning this stuff from the ground up, do it the hard way, right? And I say that because there's not a way around this stuff. If you take a shortcut now, I guarantee you it will burn you in the future. There's no way around it. There's only a way through it, right? So I don't think vibe coding it is a good idea. And I don't think using ChatGPT is anything more than potentially a occasional reference, which, by the way, there's far better resources out there on learning this stuff than that. I don't think that's a good idea. right? Just don't export your critical thinking and problem solving skills. It's just not a good idea. So I would caution against that. Oh, you're right. I missed part of this. And yes, I am a dingus. Because if it's less than this, it should be -1. Otherwise, it should be 1. Whoops. That's what I get for reading chat and coding at the same time. Thank you for that. Doing okay, a bit stressed. How about you? Yeah, I can understand that. A little bit there myself, but it's all good, right? Every day that I wake up on the right side of the dirt is a good thing, right? So, I try to keep things positive. Try to, always maintain a positive outlook, however possible. Even if it's not always possible, sometimes a positive outlook can help, right? But yeah, I totally understand that. I can sympathize, because I get it. I'm glad to see you here though. So I hope otherwise, things are going okay for you. Very easy to spend just as much time probing the LLM for the right answer versus solving the problem. And that's the other thing. A lot of the times, the answer that it gives you is not the full answer you're looking for. It might be wrong, and you might have to spend a lot of time debugging that. And even then, it might not be correct, right? So, there's multiple reasons to caution against it for a reason. You used to have to debug your code. Now you can... Wait, now you have to debug your code. Wait. You used to have to debug your code. Now you have to debug your prompt and the GPT-generated code. Yeah, exactly. I find it useful for stuff that it gives me a headache. That gives me a headache to deal with, like CMake. Like that kind of thing is probably fine. LSR, yeah. Like, hey, how do I set up, CMake for this specific instance? That might be okay, right? Things like that, or like, I don't know. I have this matrix function. Write me some unit tests for it, or something like that. Fine, okay. But yeah, other than that, I wouldn't really do it. Can you show the book from before? Yep, this is it right here. Game engine architecture. It's got like this jet engine on it. Here, let me actually do different camera here. I think it's this one. Yeah, there you go. So this is the book there, just so you can kind of see the whole thing. So yeah, that's it. That's the side of it. Good book. I debug myself and code it myself, and making sure I understand every single line and operation I'm doing. Just using it to get into it. Yeah. Although, there's a difference between being able to read and understand code and being able to write that code from scratch. So there's that too. I would just caution against it, I'm not saying never use it, but I would caution against it. There's too much tendency for LLMs to hallucinate, so I don't see much of a reason for using them. Might as well just pick up a good book or read some online articles. Exactly, yeah. That's kind of my feeling on it. First time chatter, by the way, welcome. Also, it sucks the fun out of if you outsource the thinking and coding to an LLM. This I agree with. Yes, 100%. I do see you guys over on the YouTube side. I'll catch up to that in just a second, okay? Wouldn't want to put generated code in Linux kernel. Linus would have your head, right? Yeah, for sure. I find LLMs really good at the menial, tedious work like refactors. I wish they focused on that part instead of the problem-solving thinking part. Yeah, I wish AI would just I wish they come out with something for AI to do my dishes, right? Or do my laundry. I don't need it writing my code. Let me do that. Third edition, yes, it is. Yep. Welcome, first time chatter again. Gonna get that book. Thank you. Yeah, it's a great book. I highly recommend it. Meanwhile, Windows is getting more and more broken, and Microsoft says that 30% of their new code is generated. Yep. Think about that. They've got React in their start menu, okay? Need I say more? Need I say more? Personal case study, try to get ChatGPT or another LLM to auto-generate a data structure like red black tree that is correct. If it gets it correct, keep asking it for more difficult examples. It's quick to make bold assumptions. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Microsoft's building their own demise. Yeah. Yup. React in the start menu. Yep, look it up. Here, actually. Let's see. Where was... It's React Native. Let's see. I forget what article I initially read. There's tons of articles out there on it. If you just search Windows 11 React Start Menu, you'll find it. All right. Let me catch up on the YouTube side. Serious about the game engine and TypeScript you made helped me a lot, and I'm grateful for that. But thank you for your work. I appreciate that. That was one of the first series I made on my channel that was about programming stuff. So if I were to redo that series, I probably wouldn't use TypeScript these days. But it was like just kind of getting my feet wet and writing new tutorials and stuff like that. So I'm glad it was useful, though. That's kind of why I left it up, because I figured maybe some of the core concepts out of there might be useful. All right, let me see. Is this Java or C++? It's C. Yep. Will your skin mesh code be able to read animation from an FBX file and handle bone mapping so that we can use Maximo's resources? So as long as Assimp handles it, then yes. Trying to learn DirectX 12 from a book I'm going through, but I'm having a hard time configuring it in VS Code. Oh, I just said a cuss word. I should have bleeped it. It's a family-friendly stream. Normally when I talk about that editor, I say VS. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. All right. Let's see. You're having a hard time configuring that to the MSVC compiler. Got any tips? I've never done that. But you could take a look at... I do have a configuration for that in here. Let me just pull this up real quick. So I do have a configuration, in here for that. Let's see, where did I put that? It's going to be in the Kohi repo. There is some settings in here for that. It's using Clang instead. So like when we do... when I do build, right, it calls a shell script or a batch file if you're on Windows. And so those files essentially do some figuring out of platform stuff ahead of time, but essentially just call a makefile. So this might not necessarily like be useful to you directly unless you're using make. But you could, essentially set up a batch file that has the commands that you need for it in there. In fact, I think Handmade Hero actually has an example of what that batch file might look like to go ahead and build something using MSVC's command line compiler. So you could look at that and then combine that idea with this and the configuration that I have here to actually set that up. So it's not a direct answer to your question, but like using those two things, you should be able to figure it out. How do you get that knowledge to know how to build a game engine? Build lots of engines, which I've done. Do lots of reading, right? Again, this book too. Start here. Also study existing game engines, not only for the way that they do things, but also think about it critically, about how you could do it differently to make it better, simpler, faster, whatever, right? Is that Vim you're using? I'm using NeoVim. Let's see. I feel like this question is been asked a bunch. I apologize if that's the case. Which way is C better than C++ or OOP in general for building the engine? Or is it just personal taste? Oh boy, that's a loaded question. Okay. I'm not going to go off the deep end on this one because that could turn into a very long answer, right? But C is a far simpler language than C++, first off. So just because of that, its compiler is a lot faster. I also prefer C as a language because it's simpler to use, right? It doesn't have all of the mess that is modern C++. I don't use most of the features that modern C++ has. I don't use OOP to speak of. I don't use a lot of the features that C++ has, so I don't use it, right? I did use C++ and I wrote very C-like C++ for a long time. But then I'm just like, why am I doing this? I could just use C. The only two things that I really miss are constant expressions and operator overloads. And that's about it. Maybe function overloads too. For like logging functions and stuff like that. But in general, I don't use most of that stuff. There's lots of talks out there about why OOP is not necessarily always the best thing to use. There are instances of where it's useful. I don't think a game engine is one of those things, at least at the core level, especially at the core level. There's lots of performance considerations to go along with that. And just the way that OOP in general just kind of gets in the way of things, right? So like I said, I'm not going to go into a super deep answer here. I've talked about it at length, but I probably ought to make I feel like I ought to make like a targeted YouTube video for that one of these days. But yeah, so it's a combination of personal taste and I have legitimate technical reasons why I don't use those things. Let's see. How do you approach designing the architecture of large-scale systems to keep code reliable, testable, and maintainable? And what common anti-patterns have you encountered? That's another loaded question. You guys got the good questions tonight. So the approach to designing an architecture of a large-scale system, this isn't the best answer, but it's the truthful answer. It depends, right? There's no one size fits all to that. I do try to think about as many of the common use cases as I possibly can, as well as some of the important edge cases. But by and large, I try to avoid making too many things private. And actually, I've got that problem in a few places in this engine that I've got to fix. Because more often than not, that just tends to get in the way. It makes refactoring harder. So there's that. That also feeds into maintenance and testability as well, because your unit tests become a lot harder to write when you're dealing with private code. And in C, there's no such thing as private code, right? But you have things like static functions or types that are only actually included in a C file instead of a header file. That kind of makes them private to that compilation unit, right? So, you just have to kind of think about, where it makes sense to do that and where it doesn't make sense to. Something like a math library, for example, shouldn't have any private types of any kind or any private data. So, I don't... yeah, I guess there's not really, there's a few things that you can do, but there's not like really a one size fits all. Like it's really dependent on the system that you're writing. There's not really a one size fits all answer to that question, unfortunately. As far as anti-patterns, what common anti-patterns have I encountered? You mean like in my own projects or just in general? I know one thing. A lot of people like to poop on singletons, right? And I kind of will, but I kind of won't, right? Because a singleton is one of those examples of something is using OOP that probably shouldn't be, right? Because a singleton is generally something that has some sort of global state that you need a single instance of, hence the term singleton, right? But then if you need a single instance of that thing, then why are you creating an object that you're only going to instantiate once when it could just be a global structure, right? So it's I don't know. It's kind of a it's kind of a complicated question. I could go on for probably half an hour on that. I don't think I probably should though. Does anyone know how good the 3D engine programming book by Stefan Zerbst, Just Getting Started and Wondering? I have not read that one, so I can't tell you. What instead of TypeScript would you use nowadays then? Just raw JavaScript. Or I might even write the engine in C and compile it to WASM and use that instead. That would probably be more performant anyway. Would definitely be more performant. What am I saying? Definitely would be. There's a long time C CPP dev that writes my CPP is basically C. I agree with everything you're saying. Yeah, that's kind of, yeah, I think we're on the same page there. What's your thought about Rust? I've not used it enough to give a qualified opinion on that. I've used it enough to know that I don't think I want to use it because I don't want to be fighting the compiler to do what I want to do. But that's just opinion, right? I haven't used it enough to consider myself qualified to answer that question. Never heard a C dev say they miss operator overloading. So, asterisk on the operator overloading. There's one place that would be useful. And that would be for functions like these. Adding, subtracting, right? All of the vector and matrix math. That's where I miss it, right? To just be able to say, vec2 plus vec2, right? Instead of having to do vec2 add. That's it. Other than that, I don't think they should be used. Operator overloading for enums would be fantastic for C. Interesting. What would be the benefit there, I guess? C is actually object-oriented. C/H file is your class. Static functions, globals are private functions. Members. Okay, but see, don't forget, object-oriented, it's more than just encapsulation, right? Because you're talking mostly encapsulation here. There's way more to object-oriented programming than just encapsulation. So, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I would say what you're talking about there is more encapsulation, not OOP. You're so right about that. I literally built my own vector math library in C and could agree with this 100%. Yeah, exactly. Yep. It's true. It's just encapsulation. I just like to pull out the .c to obj file joke. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Book link request. Oh, do I have that? Hang on a second. I know it's available on the Jungle website. Okay, here we go. You know what? I'm gonna drop this in chat because I don't want to flashbang you guys. And I'll drop it over here on the YouTube side as well. All right. Let me scroll up and catch up on chats. Thank you for the highlighted message there, by the way. Okay. Okay, that was the Amazon link. Let's see. Well, there were children present. Yeah. I screwed up and I said the name of the editor that shall not be named on stream. Yeah, I know, right? I should ban myself for saying that. Okay. So I think I'm probably going to have to skip some messages because there's way too many for me to actually catch up on here, if that's cool. Is it a curse word because Vim is superior? Or is there more history there? It's a joke. It's just a joke. I mean, I still use it as my debugger for now. Right? it's just funny to say. In C++, you get some mutex. In C, you get mutex threads, right? Depending. Like, C itself doesn't really give you any of that stuff, right? It's technically the standard lib or the OS lib that you're using, right? So like on Linux and Mac OS, I use pthreads versus Windows, I actually use, what the heck are they called? We wrote it in our platform layer. Let's just create thread, right? Is what does it on Windows. This is not highlighted, obviously, because we're on Linux at the moment, but, so it depends. We'll say the more recent versions of C++ has been improved on some of the more verbose aspects of the language, like Chrono. Chrono is always the example I think of. That's terrible. I'm sure you could implement a smart pointer in C. Yes, you could, but why? You absolutely could, but why? Love the code in C98 style, but C++ only 11 compatible for Raspberry Pi, maybe C++ 17. Yeah, so like if I was going to use C++, I would use probably C++ 11. Just because everything after that doesn't really add anything of value for me, anyway. A lot of the niceties of C++ is implementing stuff that you would have to implement yourself in C. Yeah, but I like implementing that stuff. And truthfully, like once you get a library or something set up, you only really have to implement it once, and then you can just copy it to your next project, right? It's not really that big of a deal. Never found making things private useful literally ever. Yeah, and that was a problem that I faced, or a bad habit that I had to break for sure. And I still did it sometimes in this engine, and I actually have to fix it, right? Because it literally every time I'm thinking, oh, I should probably encapsulate this, every single time it bites me in the ass. So there's going to be lots of places where I'm going to be just removing that stuff for sure. At least as far as data structures go, like internal processing functions, kind of like for something like an importer. Okay, I can kind of get that, right? But like outside of that, not really. You started on the rabbit hole for algorithms for parallel programming. Ooh boy, yeah, that is a rabbit hole. You can do that in C, and you may find it more simple since you are closer to what the actual machine is doing. You might want to look into GPU too. I'm not sure what that was at. Yeah, Doomer, sorry about that. I was catching up on messages, and it took me a minute to get caught up to yours. But yeah, I did put the link. I can drop it again if you didn't get it. OOP is bad because of inheritance. Encapsulation is good. Yeah, encapsulation can be good, but it can be overused just like anything else. That's why I love C++ GLM math library. Yeah, but LSR, there's also CGLM, which is GLM that's been ported to C. So there's that. I think the particular way inheritance is done is bad. I think tagged unions are a nicer way of polymorphism. I would agree. One language feature I think would be cool is if we had, is if we could call functions inline, like vec x dot vec y, which would be, oh, okay. Yeah, that would be interesting. I mean, we could always build our own language, right? We could pull a Jonathan Blow and just build our own language. You know, if we want to make this take another 10 years to get out the door. No disrespect to him, because what he's doing is awesome, but he also has multiple people working on that compiler now, so I'm just one guy. So it'd take 10 years, for sure. But it'd be cool. I want to do it eventually, maybe. If I live long enough. GLM is evil. I now have to discard it because it conflicts with pop push packed code that I have for network vector, for example, and I made my own mathlib with AI, but I knew what it was doing side by side with GLM. Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, I don't really use GLM either. GLM is a good library, right? It's got SIMD and all the things, right? But yeah, I don't know. Since we made our own here, I don't have to use it. In a linear algebra book, I don't think I have a linear algebra book. What I would recommend for linear algebra is two things. So there is this channel, which I'll drop a link in chat. For all things math, this is a fantastic channel. Go there for all things math, right? Especially like linear algebra and all that kind of stuff. Like, this is a fantastic resource. It's one of the best, if not the best, to be completely honest. Khan Academy also has some pretty decent free stuff. But I think 3 Blue, 1 Brown is probably the best out there, to be honest. How many years would it take to be a somewhat good C developer? Depends on where you're at, right? How many languages have you learned before? How proficient are you with, I don't know, C++ or some C-like language? How quick are you at picking up languages? It really depends. It depends on you, right? How often you're going to use it. What I usually recommend for people who want to learn C, the best way to learn to write C is to write a full string library, a string processing library on your own from scratch in C, using none of the standard library. So learn how to do all of, take a look at like C#'s string processing, right? Look at all of the functions they have and implement all of those from scratch. By the time you're done with that, you'll be good with C. Let's see. Been a while since I managed to catch a stream. Omega Degan hours for me right now. Well, welcome. What are the benefits of starting one's coding journey with C? Many, actually. So the learning curve of C as a first language is high, right? I'm not going to lie. There are several concepts you're going to have to wrap your head around that are maybe going to seem somewhat complex at first. But if you get proficient with C, I can guarantee you picking up any other language is going to be much, much simpler than doing it the other way around. So that is probably the biggest benefit is if you know C, picking up any other language is going to be much easier. It's going to make a lot more sense to you right off the bat, as opposed to if you do it the other way around. C++ included. Private's more for shipped libraries. There was a good debate about it on Prime stand-up a week or two ago. I don't know if I I don't know if I agree with that either, right? Because the thing about a library is if you have functions in it that process data that is sort of like a black box that you have no control over, right? What if you need to make a modification to the way that that data works or is processed, right? What if you need to extend that? If all of the data structures are internal, you can't do that. You can't add on to it. You can't change it and make it your own. You can't make a branch of it per se, right? I mean, you can, but it kind of makes it a lot harder, right? I don't know. Like I would say that actually making stuff private in a library, in a shipped library, is actually worse than keeping everything public in a shipped library. Probably by the time I'm done with Kohi, most, if not every, data structure is going to be a public data structure. How do you plan to handle limits on dynamic point lights in Kohi? So for right now, there's a hard limit of 256 point lights. And that's just a hard limitation within the system. There's a few reasons for that. That's just what I chose. It's because we index them with U8s, and that's how we pass it over to the shader as well to access it in the storage array, in the storage buffer array. So yeah, right now that is the limit. It's a hard-coded limit, and if you try to pass it anymore, it'll just ignore it. GLM and C, music to my ears. Yeah, it's CGLM is what it's called. I don't think access specifiers are useful. My opinion, you either need an opaque type or you have access to every struct field. Yep, I agree. Mixing public and private in the same interface has never felt right to me. I fully agree with that. I used to think differently back when I wrote lots of OOP, right? And that was really the only thing that I knew. And I've written lots of OOP. And so all of these conclusions that I've come to are after having spent years writing OOP. But yeah, I agree with that, Orshi, 100%. If you want to have something hidden, hide it properly, but also question why. I think the learning curve for C is way better than C++. 100% it is. Yeah, C is a way simpler language. But learning C will make learning C++ easier. Find ad hoc data structures fine on the implementation side. Valid. It's very rare that I really feel the need to have something hidden to begin with. It pops up when I want to wrap some algorithm that might change, for example, a stateful random type. Yeah, there are circumstances where it makes sense, but yeah, more often than not, it kind of doesn't, right? Like an example in this code base would be where we have the Vulkan renderer, right? We don't want the rest of the engine to be aware of anything Vulkan, right? So that's an example of where it makes sense to encapsulate that. And it's also a plugin, so it sort of maintains an interface, right? Or it implements an interface, and I use that terminology loosely. But that's an example of where you'd want to use something like that. But it's pretty few and far between. I was thinking about you need to be really good at math for being a C dev. Is it really a requirement for C? No. Mm-mm. For doing graphics programming, you need to be decent at it, yeah. But math is one of those things you can always look up. Like I don't remember a lot of formulas and stuff for doing this kind of thing. I can't recall like a lot of these things off the top of my head. Some of it I can, some of it I can't. But you can always look it up, right? So let's see. Yep. Okay. Did I catch up on the YouTube side? I think I mostly have. Is it that Kohi already has frustum calling, but now just calls patches of LOD terrain outside the frustum, but not yet for meshes in the scene, and is occlusion calling available? So right now, all of that's broken, but we do have it we do have logic in place to actually handle that stuff. We've been reworking our scenes. And so I think that that's one of the components that actually is a to-do. I have to re-implement that and get that back in. We had it before, but we completely changed the way that our scenes work and store data and all that stuff. So yeah, we do have the capability to do it. I just don't have it in at the moment. Threads on Linux are actually separate processes just connected with shared memory via pthread memory, but on Windows, threads are built into the OS libs Windows H. Exactly. Yep. Yeah, and that's why we have that differentiation between the platform layers. Because pthreads are pretty convenient to use, because I can use the same pthread logic between Linux and Mac OS, which is nice. I only had to figure out something different for Windows, of course, because it's Windows. With graphics programming, the math that's used the most is linear algebra concepts, which I feel is more accessible than calculus, for example. There is some calculus. There is also some trig. But yeah, it is mostly linear algebra. So Doomer, I have another book for you. And I'm actually going to say two things, because I used to recommend this book all the time, but I don't actually recommend it as much anymore. This is what I learned C with. So this is Sam's Teach Yourself C in 24 hours. And it's okay. It's not a bad book. It's okay. But I finally found my copy of this guy. This is the book you're going to want. So this is the second edition of the C programming language. This is what everybody refers to as, it's K&R, right? So it's by Brian Kernighan. I never remember. My dyslexia screws me hard on his name. And Dennis Ritchie, right? So this book is a must read if you're going to be learning C. It's the GOAT. Yes. I don't know if I have an Amazon link for that, but let me see. I can probably find one really quickly. Yeah, maybe not that one. Is this it? Yeah, here we go. And again, I'm just going to paste this for you guys so you don't get flashbanged. Boom. I should probably set up, as much as I recommend these books, I should probably set up an affiliate link or something for them. All right. C89 GigaChad. Yeah. Actually, most of this code base is in C99, with the exception of some debug stuff. Graphics programming was a great entry into more math-heavy stuff for me, starting with linear algebra, and once you get into more lighting stuff, you get some multivariable calculus, sampling theory, and probability stuff. Yep. And some of that stuff I'm still wrapping my head around too, for sure. You're doing this, you mentioned you're doing this for educational purposes, but I'm sure there's more to it than that. You enjoy the process of making the engine, or is it necessary for your other plans? Yes, to both. I like writing the lower level tech. I like writing this kind of stuff. But also, this is going to power the game that we are going to launch on Steam, which is going to be a 3D isometric action RPG that we have already started writing a design document for. Let me just pull it up here. So we've already started writing up a design document in here. We've got 30 some odd pages. I'm scrolling through it really fast because there's lots of stuff in here, right? But yeah, we already have plans of what we're gonna make on it. So yeah, it is a means to an end, but I also like writing it. Okay. I think I caught up on chat, which is awesome. I try to keep up to date on it as much as possible. But that is also that's also the reason I do write some code offline, because otherwise, we wouldn't get anywhere. But that's okay. Is your game project a real-time combat action RPG? Yes, it will be. Yep. Justin, my dude, it's good to see you. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Welcome. How long do you plan to finish the project? I do not have a timetable. So to give you some idea of the effort that's gone into this thus far, we're building an animation system right now, which is the last system that we're going to need for the foreseeable future in building this game. There are a couple of other things. We'll have to add a particle system, some things like billboards, but none of those are particularly complicated. This is sort of the last major one that we're going to need to actually start making the game. Technically, we could even start it without it, but it seems kind of weird to not have animations, right? So to get to this point, it's been about 4.5 years, I think, but huge asterisk on that one. I spend less than part-time hours on this every week, right? So I do 2 streams a week, and I spend maybe a grand total of between 10 and 15 hours tops on this every week. So yes, it's been 4.5 calendar years, right? But if we were to consolidate that into full-time hours, we're talking a little over a year's worth of actual full-time development, right? Which for making your own engine from scratch is not that bad. So I hope that makes sense. So, just to kind of put that in perspective, that's how long it's taken us to get our engine going, right? I anticipate the game itself will probably take a few years of dev time. That being said, I think it'll also probably... A lot of that's probably not going to be coding once we get a lot of the initial systems up and running. A lot of that's going to be making assets. Most of that, I'll say, is going to be making assets and content. Will your game have online capabilities? No. Because I do not want to have to support that. So that is one thing we're not doing, is nothing online. Really appreciate it if you keep recordings in YouTube for future devs who work on Kohi. Just feature like... Oh, yeah. So if you check out my YouTube channel, actually, which is linked in the description. But... Let's see. Where's the... Here we go. So on my YouTube channel... there's actually playlists here. And there is, let's see, there is, why doesn't it give me, isn't it right here, I think? Yeah. The problem is it's showing it like for my preferences, not what you guys will see. So we have, here we go. The Vulkan Game Engine series written in C. So this is a playlist that has everything from episode 1, or technically episode 0, plus an intro video, all the way up to where we are now. So everything has been uploaded to the YouTube channel from the very beginning. So yeah, it's all there. Including, like episode 0 is literally where we actually create the GitHub repo, for example. First time chatter, welcome. Cheers to the grind. Yeah, definitely. Definite grind. Do you ever plan to accept help, or do you prefer to keep it completely solo? So I have accepted help on a few small things. So there has been a few people that have contributed either bug fixes or small features to the engine. I still do prefer to do most of this myself, but this person here actually wrote the initial Mac OS port, for example. So they actually wrote the initial version of that, and I was able to take that and sort of convert it into what we have now. So, for an example, that's one of the things that was done. But yeah, all these folks here have implemented something, one or another, and or a bug fix or something like that. So I do occasionally accept pull requests, but I do prefer to sort of keep that solo for the most part for right now. Thank you for the follows, by the way. Appreciate that. All right. So we have the tangent, bitangent. Let's see. What else was what was I saying we also needed here? Text coordinates. We also have color we do need to set up. So color, we do need vert color. We're going to default that to vec for 1, which is basically the same as saying white. And so actually, this makes me wonder, does the mesh actually have... Oh, we do have colors. Max color sets. Each array is in... I wonder if that means what I think it does. Are these actual vertex colors? I kind of feel like they are. 0 to max number of color sets, vertex colors per vertex. So it can have more than... Is the max number of color sets this 8? It is. So that's an array of arrays. That's interesting. So I wonder if maybe we should... use that. But it said 0. What did it say? May contain 0 to the max number. So it could contain 0 to 8. I guess it'd be 0 to 7. Null pointer if not present. So does that mean the whole thing is set to null pointer, or is it like set 0 would be a null pointer, I guess? I guess that's what it would be. Which that's the only one I'm going to care about anyway. So let's put that in with maybe a note. So let's just do this. We'll say if this. Wait a minute. Was that? So if this exists, then we'll say vert color equals mesh m colors. Do I want to check that on each iteration though? That kind of sucks. Let's do this. Well, I'm going to have a check there no matter what I do. Even if I do this check above here, I'm still going to have to check down here. I don't like it, but let's do that. And then we'll say sub I. Right, and instead of this, that's going to be a, probably a vert color 4D. Okay, so AI color 4D, and that needs a struct tag, and we'll call this color, and we'll take the address of that. Right, and then we'll do essentially this. So it'll be color vec4, and then right? We'll have this, and then this will have to be R, G, B, A, right? So we'll store it that way. Otherwise we'll default to this. Yeah, I guess that's okay. I don't know. I don't love it, but I'm going to put a note here. Use vertex color if it exists. Otherwise, just use whites. And then maybe I'll put a to-do here. Find a cleaner way to do this. Maybe there isn't a cleaner way, but that's what I'm going to go with for right now. First time chatter. JD does dev. Welcome. Of course, unfortunately, I have to concede having the best beard on Twitch to you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Shoddy, hello. How's it going? First time chatter as well. Welcome. Thank you for the follower doomer. Appreciate that. Which is better, programming or DevOps in terms of job opportunities and salary? I've not worked DevOps or really looked into it, so I can't really determine that, to be honest. And that varies widely depending on industry too, right? Like, thought DevOps was part of a software engineering job. It can be, sometimes it can be, but not always. In a lot of places, it's actually a specialized thing. Yeah, it's server infrastructure, a lot of settings, automating tasks, builds, deployments, CI, that kind of thing, is usually what that is. Automating environment deployments and that kind of thing, right? There's a lot that goes into it. Managing of repos and that kind of thing. So sometimes, in smaller companies that can be rolled into like the senior devs doing it, but in larger companies, that's generally a completely separate role. Yeah, I don't know that I'm qualified to answer that question, to be completely honest. Depends on, I would say go for whatever one you think you want to do. I feel like a lot of devs can do DevOps stuff, especially like if you're a senior dev, you could probably handle anything that DevOps normally does. I don't know that the opposite is necessarily always true, because like I said, DevOps is sort of a targeted version of development, right? It includes other things that aren't your typical development type of activities, but it's more of like a specialized thing. So I don't know. You can do a lot of DevOps things, but I'd rather hand it off to someone who's better at it. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on it, right? I've done DevOps before, but like it was part of the role that I had as a lead. So I don't know. I've never done it specifically and only that though. But yeah, having done it, I kind of feel the same way. It's not something I would want to do. But I appreciate the folks that do it because they tend to be better at it. And then I don't have to do it. So, yeah. Thank you for the follows. Appreciate that. All right. Okay. So that's color. What else do we have in here? Oh, bone IDs and weights. Okay. So bone IDs and weights. Let's see. Do we have... I don't know that we can... We do have bones, but we haven't actually read those in yet. So... Okay, so these are... Consists of a name by which it can be found in the frame hierarchy, and a set of vertex weights. Oh, that actually includes, let me take a look at what this actually has in it. So there's the name of the bone. The bone node in the scene used for skeleton conversion. Okay. By vertex index. Okay, so we're going to have to process the bones in a separate pass. Maybe we should process the bones actually first before we even get to the vertices, right? Because, and actually, no, it's going to have to be separate no matter what we do, right? Because these are by vertex index, which means, you know, essentially this array here, right? This vertices array. But the bones themselves are a separate array that's of a different size. So we can't necessarily process them at the same time. I suppose we could do, actually we should probably do bones after vertices, right? So we'll have to do bones in bone indices after we do this, right? And we'll have to sort of go through this again or pick things out of this D array, essentially. Which actually, why, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't even really need a D array for this, right? We don't need to push this every single time. Why did I do it this way? We know what the capacity needs to be right here. What a dingus. Okay, so let's do k-alex-c array, right? And we're going to say the type is going to be skin vertex 3D, and the count is going to be mesh m num vertices, right? And then we can just do away with this push. And instead of this, doing it this way, we do equals the address of vertices sub I, right? And then we can just pass vert here. That is a lot better to me. Of course, that's going to break a whole bunch of stuff, but that's fine. We can fix that real quick. Okay. That makes a lot more sense instead of pushing, because that's dumb. All right. So I guess let's do bones, right? So I'm going to say for u32i equals 0, I is less than mesh bones. So is this like a, actually I guess it's going to be number of bones, right? Plus I. So AI struct AI bone is going to be mesh bones. And I noticed this is a double pointer. I wonder if this pulls, I wonder if these are pointers to bones within the scene. Does the scene? I wonder if those are just convenience pointers. AI skeleton. I don't know. I guess we'll find out, right? We'll just kind of work our way through the structure and see how it works, right? So each bone has weights indexed by the vertex index. So we already have the vertices. We already have the vertices above, so we'll just do struct AI vertex weight pointer, and we'll take the address of bone weights. By vertex index. Do I need to... I am going to have to iterate the vertices again. I don't love it. The influence weights of the bone by vertex. So I guess what we're going to have to... I think we're going to have to loop through this again. So we'll do for U32, j equals 0. J is less than mesh num vertices plus plus j. And then here, we'll say that the weight is weights sub j. So that should give us vertex ID. And then the weight is going to be influence from all bones. I'm not sure I'm iterating this correct. I need to think about how this data is actually probably stored. So if we're getting the weights from... If we're getting the weights from... my hair keeps blowing in my face. Oh, we do have a num weights in here. Number of vertices affected by this bone, which is max bone weights. Holy crap. That's a lot of bone weights. Okay. So we only actually want to allow 4. Oh, wait. Number of vertices affected by the bone, not the other way around. Right. That's fine. Okay. So actually we need to iterate bone num weights. And then vertex ID, index of the vertex, which is influenced by the bone. And then what the weight is. So how do we organize these weights? Into all right, so this is used to index the bone, right? So I guess let's get that first. We'll do skin vertex 3D pointer v equals the address of, and that's going to be vertices sub weight vertex ID. Right? That'll give us the vertex that it affects. What I'm trying to figure out is in that vertex we have bone IDs and weights, right? So bone ID could be I, essentially, and then weights would have to be appended into, actually for both bone IDs and weights, we'd have to sort of keep like a running count of how many things we have here. So that we know how to sort of file them in there, right? But I don't want to store that on the vertex. I guess what we could do, we could keep a small array, temporary array in here, right? So we'll say vertex bone counts, right? And this is going to be a kalloc type C array, U8, and this will also be mesh num vertices, right? Those will automatically be 0, which is valid. And so we can do U8 counts equals, what did I call that? Vertex bone counts. Vertex bone counts. Weight vertex ID, right? So we index it the same way. And then that count will tell us what vertex within the weights array and the bone ID array to file these in. And I think that will work. So we'll just do a quick check here to say if count is less than 4, then we can go ahead and do v bone IDs counts equals I, right? And then v weights sub count equals weight, which actually right? Did I get that right? Oh, I think this is a vector for, so it needs to be dot elements. Same with this. Yeah. And then this should be what is it? Max. What was that? I'm trying to remember where that was. Did I not have it in here? I thought I did. This. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. So what we need is sure. Okay. So if the count is less than that, meaning that we haven't exceeded the number of bones and weights that can be applied to a single vertex, then we go ahead and add it, and we do a vertex bone counts weight vertex ID plus plus. Right? So that is how we're going to link those up. And then we also need to keep a copy of the bone itself, right? So the bone is going to have other properties that we are going to need. So let's just first apply bone indices to indices and weights to vertices. Each vertex can only be affected by 4 bones. We may have to work some sort of a check into there, like maybe some sort of assertion or something, you know, need some sort of fix for if this overflows. I guess what we'll do is we'll just put a warning in here. Bone. Actually, we'll just say vertex ID already has the max number of bone IDs and weights that can influence it. Right, so we'll just warn about that, I guess, for now, and we'll see if we can come up with a better fix later. All right, so bones also have let's see, a name, an armature node, so that's used for skeleton conversion. I think that's probably what contains the actual transform itself, I'm guessing. The bone node. Well, wait a minute. The armature node and the bone node. Must enable AI process populate armature data to populate this. What's the difference? Bone armature node versus bone node. I might have to read the docs on that. Offset matrix. Let's see. Oh, this actually might be what I'm looking for. Transforms from mesh space to bone space in the bind pose. Okay. This might actually be what I need. Let's take a look at the structure of that. Let's see. Okay. We might wind up having to do some conversion of this matrix data. Does this say whether it is... Does it say anything about whether it is column major or row major? Always row major. Cool. So I'm going to have to transpose this. Okay. That's fine. Let's put a to-do here. Transpose the offset matrix. Okay, so I think that might actually be the only thing that we need to do. Right, because we're probably going to need to know I also don't see anything in here about hierarchy. So we're going to need that as well. I better leave myself some notes here. Figure out how to query bone hierarchy. I think it's going to be that the skeleton, but we'll have to come back to that. Let's see. We're on the same team. Hello there. Do you mean the are we on the same stream team? We might be. I don't know how I can actually see it through this. You know what? I'm just going to toss you a follow. That way, if I see you online, I can pop in. All right. So I'm going to leave this left off message here because I am going to have to wrap up the stream. We're about 3 minutes from the end of the stream. And so I know we kind of did a lot of Q&A tonight, which is fine. But we also started talking about this. I'm going to read up a little bit on how to query the bone hierarchy offline via this. I have an idea of how to do it, but I'm not 100% sure it's right. And then we'll get the all the matrix data and all that good stuff on the next stream. So let me just, I think I'm going to find somebody to raid. And I just want to say a big thank you to everybody that's been here, hanging out, and all the good questions tonight. You guys were super active, and I really appreciate it. So thank you for that. Let's see, who do I want to raid? See if I can find a smaller channel to raid. Oh, okay. I actually see who we can. I see who we can raid. Well, we'll see. Actually, I see one possibility. Got to implement this too. Got to watch that Bone YouTube video, UFBX and GLTF docs and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Which this supposedly handles GLTF. So I should get that kind of for free. Although I've never tried it through this. I've always used something else for that, but let's go ahead and let's raid. Let's raid Sergeant Pepper. He's a good friend of mine. He's raided me a bunch of times. Let's return the favor. So we're going to go and raid him, see what he's up to. Yeah, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. We stream this Saturday. No, I don't normally stream on weekends, unfortunately. I have a lot of things going on the weekend, so it's kind of hard for me to do that. But, that's not to say I never will, but not this weekend at least. But yeah, we're gonna raid Sergeant Pepper, so I'll drop a link over on the YouTube side for you guys as well. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. I would ask, if you haven't already, if you wouldn't mind giving me a follow or a sub over on the YouTube side. I would greatly appreciate it. Those things help me grow the channel and reach more folks. So I appreciate each and every one of them. And if you have, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I will see you guys. We'll be back here tomorrow night at the same time, 9 p.m. Eastern, maybe a little bit before then. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. See ya.